Maybe I'll try this one.
Hey, y'all. Hey, welcome to the Unangry Black Woman podcast. I am your host, your healing coach, Tiffany Fox. Our podcast is a platform where we express the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. We actually focus on unique perspectives that help shape our community and our culture. So we talk about the things that we don't normally talk about, right? Our podcast is an extension of our company, Tiffany Fox Inc., aka TFI, which is our coaching and consulting firm, where we offer one-on-one coaching, group coaching. We have a host of published healing journals to help you do your inner work. We do one-on-one coaching, group coaching, workshops, seminars. We do it all. We also create safe spaces for us to have these discussions in the community. So our quarterly event is called Barbershop Talk for Her. And so we're purposed to help women get out of survival mode, teach them how to show up for themselves and start their healing journey. And let's get into today's episode. We have a guest. Our guest is our fan favorite. He's coming from behind the production camera and joining us today. He's my husband, my man, Keon Fox. How are you, sir?
I'm good. What's up, everybody?
Welcome to the show yet again.
Yeah, we're done with Women's History Month, so the men can come back on now.
Yes, that's right. That's right. You're welcome every week, but in the month of March. Yeah. So, what are we talking about today, Mr. Fox?
Love and marriage.
Ooh. All right. So we've been married for almost 10 years. It'll be 10 years in August.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I think this is a great topic because in just the community period and a lot of conversations we're having, a lot of coaching calls I'm getting is about marriage. And in real life, we host a marriage group where we sit with 3 other couples and we do life with those couples. And we meet once a month. But like I said, we do life. So I know marriage and love is a hot topic right now. It always is. But I think it is coming up more and more. So I think that's a great topic to get into.
Cool with me.
So I guess my first question would be, did you have preconceived notions of what marriage was going to be like?
No.
Okay. Talk about it.
I didn't have any examples of marriage.
Okay.
Coming up, so I didn't have any preconceived notions. I would just say that from my point of view, just when I decided that I wanted to get married, I knew that was a commitment, and that's something that I wanted to stick to. It wasn't. I had my own set of rules as far as what marriage was.
Okay.
So it wasn't anything that someone told me. It wasn't anything that I really saw, but it was just basically the stuff that I wanted.
Okay. I think I had preconceived notions.
Okay.
I didn't have strong examples. We had my great-grandparents were married. My parents were married for about 10 years before they got divorced. So I didn't have strong marriages that were in front of me. So I knew that, it would be whatever I made it. However, I did have the fairy tale kind of Claire and Heathcliff kind of perspective before I got married. And so in the process of wanting to be married, I read books. He said, she said, respect and love. And so I sought out really to have, I don't want to say the perfect marriage, but an ideal marriage because I didn't know what it was.
Right.
But I quickly learned that there is no blueprint. You are the blueprint.
So this is the funny thing with that statement because, and this is for the listeners, I remember when we were engaged. It might even been prior to us getting engaged, but I think it was when we were engaged. And you were trying to get me to read certain books.
Yeah.
And I thought they were stupid. Not that the books were stupid, just the idea of reading a book about a marriage. And I say that because who's ever writing a book is giving their perspective. But once you get into marriage, you understand that, hey, this person is completely different than anyone else you're dealing with. So whoever's writing that book can speak to their experience with their significant other. You can't speak to our situation. Now, not to say that books couldn't be helpful, but I think that when you were trying to get me to read books, you thought that, and this is just my, my perspective on it. You thought that that was something that, like you said, it had to be a guide.
Right.
And that's why I had so much, I gave you so much resistance on doing it, and I never read the books. And you just made the statement that, it's not a template, it's no cookie cutter, it's nothing, it's you and this person in your own situation. So there's not a book that's going to be able to tell you, no different than how women have men read the baby books. You either have it or you don't. You learn it. It's not anything that I read this book and now I'm a pro at it. You learn through life with your marriage, with your children, that you are learning on the fly. You're learning as you go. So even prior to me being married, I kind of had that idea of that's what it was. And that's why I had the resistance of, I'm not reading this book. I'm not doing it this way. Hey, we're going to do it together and we're going to figure it out. That's not to say that I couldn't take advice from people, but I just felt like I'm not reading a book to tell me how to be a husband. So, yeah.
And I think that there are some books, I think they are helpful as a guide, right? I think that understanding that marriage comes with sacrifice and understanding, that men speak different than women. So some things I do think is a guide. But who taught me how to be Mrs. Fox is Mr. Fox. And if I'm very honest, I had to learn what it was to be your wife.
Right.
And so I think we go into marriage with this whole idea of being the perfect wife or the perfect husband, and we're not open to understanding what it means to be married to your spouse.
Right.
And so I think in a lot of marriages, and I heard a statistic the other day that the rate of divorce is going down. So that is very interesting and good to know. But I just wonder why. I don't know if it's because people are getting married older. But again, I think there's a lot of preconceived notions of what I should be as a husband and what I should be as a wife versus what does my spouse need in a husband and what does my spouse need in a wife. And I think if you have blended families, that adds another layer of difficulty in trying to navigate all of that, because now you have fatherhood and now you have step parenting and now you have bonus parenting or whatever, you want to call it. So I think it brings another layer to it. So why do you think the rate of divorce is going down?
Don't know. But
okay.
To the point that you just made a few minutes ago, I do think that you have people who are listening to themselves at this point, or getting advice from people. So again, like you said, there was preconceived notions, and I think that that's the thing that the advice that you get from people, they will tell you to go ahead and throw that out the window. So like you said, you had a Cliff and Claire idea or vision in your head of what a marriage looks like, and you quickly find out that doesn't exist.
Correct.
So if you're getting advice from people, just like you said, we have a marriage group, so it's 4 couples all together, right? So if any one of those couples were to talk to, including us, is 4 couples.
It's 6. It's 6
4
of us.
couples.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
That would be 8 of us.
Got you.
So it's 4 couples together. So if any one of those couples were to speak to anyone that was single, they would be able to tell them what some of those preconceived notions are real and
absolutely
totally fake. So I think that's something that, there's more married couples now, so there's more people to give advice. So I think I told you this in a previous podcast episode that growing up, I didn't see any married couples. Mm-hmm. Growing up, I didn't see any fathers active in the household doing stuff with their kids. You see it now. So I think that there is an effort to try to make things work, try to be together with the person that you want to be with, try to be father. So I think the effort is there more.
Right. I agree.
And with the effort being there more, I think that you're more likely to listen to someone and get their advice. Also, the other part I was going to say regarding this is, I know that, again, when I get married, and this is from single me, when I get married, I'm going to be this husband. So if I say I commit myself to you, I mean that. I'm not stepping out. I'm not doing any of this. If by any chance we happen to have a blended family, I know what comes along with this. So I'm taking on the responsibility to be everything in this situation. There's no surprises with it. And I think that that's the biggest thing, is just you knowing what you're getting up front. So I think that comes with also communication. But
I agree.
even if there's lack of communication, from my point of view, as far as a husband, when I say I do, I know what I'm getting myself into. I know the role that I have to play. I know that I'm not single anymore, and I know I need to step up. So if I was irresponsible as a single man, then I know that goes out the window when I'm married, because now there's other people that depend on me. So the role quickly changes. But the thing is, I know what my role is. The thing that I don't think, and this is just my opinion, I don't think that a lot of women, when they get married, know what their role is, because there's so many preconceived notions. You're trying to portray an image as opposed to filling a role for your spouse. And I think that's the biggest misconception. But I think that goes out the window when you get rid of that preconceived notion. So if you got a lot of women that are growing up now without that preconceived notion, then I think that helps the marriage work and the divorce rate go down. But we were raised different than these generations before. So you guys were raised with the dolls. So as a kid, I'm taking care of the babies. I'm playing house. I'm doing all these different things. Now these women are growing up independent. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I call my own shots. So now there's a conversation to be had when you and I are on the date. What do? You got your own business. You working for yourself. So I know for a fact that, am I getting a housewife? Am I getting an entrepreneur? Are we going to be partners? What are we doing? Totally different than back in the day.
Okay.
So I think that there's a big difference between what a woman is now and what a woman was then. And a man. Again, like I said, men weren't there. Now you have men that are willing to step up and assume responsibility for families that aren't theirs.
Correct.
So it's a total change altogether.
Yeah, I think that it goes back to communication. I think it goes back to, what do you want? Who are you? What are your deal breakers? What are you willing to put up with? What are you not willing to put up with? And it's not an independent versus housewife thing. I think that in partnership, we can run a house together, right? I think in partnership, we can run a business together. But what does that look like? What does that feel like? If you're a man who wants a home-cooked meal every day, then you got to be upfront and say that. But again, when we talk about gender roles and the roles that are in our head, that has to be outlined, and we got to know that.
But see, that's the thing. So when we talk about communication, so you bring up a good point as far as communication. The thing about communication is we never communicate the unspoken expectations. So in my mind, if I want a housewife, I'm not necessarily saying I want a housewife. I'm looking at you to see if you're going to be housewife material.
Well, don't give me a measuring stick that I'm not knowing I'm being measured to. Let's talk about it. Right. And so this lends to conversation. This is why I think a lot of married people and single people need to have conversations. Yeah. They try to get, they separated. This is for the singles. This is for the married couples. And I think we should have events and, spaces where married people can talk to single people and vice versa. Because I would be able to tell you the questions to ask in the beginning because I've been on this side.
Right.
And so I don't think it's necessarily, I don't think a man understands that he wants a housewife. He might want a wife that cooks, that's he might be fine with her not working, right? But or working, let's just say that he might be fine with her working and not 100%, in the home, but he still expects her to work and still the house needs to be maintained. That's the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, but it goes both ways. So you're absolutely right. The flip side to that is, and we talked about this before, when you see the women that look at the picture of the older couple, this is what I want. Right? But you don't know
But I don't think it's just women. I think it's men.
Right.
Okay.
So, but I'm saying we were just focusing on just the man part, and I'm saying that it's both. So just like the man could say in his mind, I wonder, if I want a housewife, I'm not saying it out loud. I'm just, in my mind, that's my unspoken expectation. So when we get married, I never talked about it, but I expect, even if you do work, I expect you to keep the house together.
Correct.
I expect you to cook. I expect you to do this, that, and the third. What I'm saying is, we both have seen the flip side to that, where the woman will sit there and watch a reel or a 10-second clip or a story of the man saying, hey, I take care of all the bills in my house. My wife ain't got to do nothing. Mm-hmm. And they be like, relationship goals. But along with that, like we spoke about before. So When we talk about, they call that the old school approach. So when we talk about that old school approach, we don't talk about what happened in the old school. Okay, so if I pay all the bills, in my mind, unspoken expectation, mm-hmm. I'm the head of the household and I run this house.
Correct.
So, God forbid we get in an argument. We get in an argument. The first thing's coming up is, I pay the bills in this. This is my house. We no longer partners at that point. I got something over your head all the time. So I'm saying be careful of what you ask for. Because when you ask for it, you don't ask the questions that come along with it. Like, hey, I can be a housewife, but if my housewife, are we partners? Are we 50-50? Just because I don't work, I contribute, but do you see that? Because if you don't, then comes the arguments, then comes the disrespect. We talk about it all the time where, hey, grandpa took care of all the bills. Grandma was at home with the kids and doing this, that, and the third. But granddad had a family on the other side of town.
Across the street. And I'm saying a lot of that comes with know your role. Right. And that's what I'm saying. Roles are out the window. Sit down and have a conversation and develop the roles.
Yeah, because we talk about communication all the time, but we don't talk about what's in the communication. So a lot of people think that just because we talk, we're being productive, and that's not the case.
Right, and we need to speak to comprehend and walk away with an understanding. And also on the flip side, a lot of men are attracted to ambitious women. Oh, yeah, she got her own, she do this. But when it's time to stand next to her, let's talk about the invisible measuring stick. You feel less than because you feel like I don't need you. Or you really wanted somebody who was ambitious, out there, go get her, but you did want her to take care of home. You weren't honest about that. And so I think people get into marriages from attraction and the love standpoint, but can this be our forever? Whether that's man or woman, can I live in your shadow? Right? Or what about the house? I hear, a lot in our coaching community, the man feels like, what about our house? Our house is not a priority. Everything else is a priority. School, church, your girlfriends, the kids, everything else is a priority but me. Those are the conversations we got to have up front.
Right. So let me speak to that part, right? Because I have an ambitious wife. I have a wife that's a businesswoman, entrepreneur, whole nine, right? Mm-hmm. When we got married, it didn't start like that.
Correct.
So
I was still a workaholic.
You were still a workaholic.
Right.
But it wasn't what it is now as far as this. This is completely different. And that's the other part that we have to realize when we have these conversations. Hey, we could have been having a conversation about everything, but now life changes.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? I don't think that if you were to ask yourself, your 10-year-ago self, your 11 or 12-year-ago self, would you be here at this particular moment in time? I don't know if you would honestly be able to say yes. I know the answer, and that's what I'm saying. So I know what it is.
Right.
So I don't think that it's always a shadow thing.
Right.
But there is some truth in the priority, because now this is something that, and you probably know this firsthand because you help women discover themselves. Mm-hmm. So in that self-discovery, this is new. This is exciting. This is something that I'm really interested in, as you should, but then it becomes a priority. Mm-hmm. And you have to ask yourself more so than the man, where does this hold in the list of priorities? Where is this in that list? Absolutely. Is it over this or is it over this? Because a lot of times it's not just a man making it up.
No.
A lot of times the ambition, a lot of times the self-discovery, because it makes you happy, it does take precedence over other things.
It does.
So if a man is saying, hey, the house is suffering because of this, you have to be strong enough to understand that. And that's the thing about communication. If we are talking, can you be strong enough? Is your skin thick enough to handle the truth? Mm-hmm. So
we talk about that all the time.
Right. So you have the barbershop talks, and you've recently had the barbershop talks, he said, she said. And This is the topic of a conversation that has come up in, I think, both of the barbershop series for men and women. A woman will want the truth told her way. And a man is like, the truth is what I have to tell you. It's my truth.
Right.
If I mold it to you, it's not the truth anymore. Because now I have to adjust things so that it doesn't hurt your feelings.
And for me, and we have this conversation all the time, I think it is the timing, the tone, and the delivery. I agree. I think women feel like they can handle the truth, but we want a watered down version, fluff, sprinkle version of the truth. But even in the rawness of the truth, I think that it's about timing. It is about tone and delivery.
Okay.
And I think with the correct timing, you're telling me the sky is blue, right? If I'm emotional at that point, and here you come logical, as men do, as you do, with your logic self, and you are trying to tell me the sky is blue, but I feel the sky is purple, you are not going to win, sir. Because when emotion and logic is in the room, emotion wins every time.
Right.
So when I say timing, let's allow the emotions to die down a little where I can hear reason and I can hear logic.
Right.
But when I'm emotional and I feel it's purple, I don't care about your scientific facts. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care if you call 17 people and they agree with you on what you're saying. It doesn't trump how I feel.
Yeah. And so that goes back to my point of a man is not necessarily, I can't live in her shadow. It shouldn't even be a point where there's a shadow on any man or woman in the relationship.
And so I'm not saying shadow in the sense of better than or behind. I am saying what you do takes priority over, it is the goal of the family. So for example, if you want to go to school, okay, I'll take a back seat to the things I want to do, and we'll make sure you go to school, okay? And then if you want to start the business, I'll take a back seat to what it is I want to do, and then we'll start the business, okay? You want to move out. So what I'm saying is, my opinion, there can only be one superstar at a time, not for the lifetime, but for the season. And so sometimes whoever the superstar is, that spouse has to take a back seat to help push and promote this.
Right.
And so what I'm saying is, if that is the pattern of your marriage where you are always pushing and promoting what the other spouse wants to do, it gets old after a while.
Gotcha.
Because when am I going to get to do the things I want to do?
Right.
When am I going to get to go to school?
Right.
Right? And that can be man or woman. A woman is not always in the shadow and a man is not always. But what I'm saying is, if that one spouse is the superstar all the time, and we're starting this business, and we're doing this venture, and we're doing that, and you're going to school, and we're now supporting master's degrees and PhDs and all that other stuff, when do I get to do the things that I want to do? When does the family support me? So when I say shadow, that's what I'm talking about.
Right. And we have to, and so this is the other thing with marriage and just relationship, period. You like to say that I'm a wordy person. I think that with any relationship, we're all wordy people because certain words are triggers for us. That's anyone, in my opinion. So shadow can give somebody the impression that it's behind. It's, you know, it's you're larger than life and I'm just in the back. So that is something that I would say for a man would possibly trigger them as far as saying, hey, you're in your wife's shadow. Because it does sound like a beneath thing. But I do agree with you. I do think that, yes, there has to be an agreement with, hey, okay, if you're going to do your thing right now, then this is the priority. We're pushing this. So like you said, if you want to go to school or you want to start this business, this is what we pushing. And this is the goal. And it's not I'm behind, she's in front. We're doing it together.
Correct.
And that's the thing about it. That's why I don't even like the word shadow because, even if it benefits you because this is what you want to do, if I agree, we doing it.
Correct.
So the sense of saying one is in the front and one is not, no, we're both in the front because this is what we both agreed to.
And that's nice and cute. But when it comes to the feelings, and like I said, in the people that I coach and the women that I coach, the word shadow is often used because that's how I feel. Mm-hmm. I feel like she started this daycare. Okay, she started this daycare, and we've been working the daycare. When do I get to start or open the store?
Right. So great point.
And so when I say shadow, again, I told you the context of it, but that is the words that are used in the marriage circle or the community that I coach in.
Right, and I agree with you. I think that we start to use the word shadow because it seems like this will never end.
Correct.
That's it. That it's not
Correct.
it's not the hey, let's do this and we're going through it like we agreed, we started it, we're going through it. It's hey, we've been doing this for 5 years. When are we going to be when are we going to be at a point to say, hey, now it's your turn?
Correct.
So I think that's where the shadow part comes from because it doesn't seem that it will ever end. And that's the thing that when you have an ambitious man or woman and you are in a relationship, there really does have to be a timeline in order to say, hey, this is what we're going to do for this period of time. And then this is what we're going to shift over to after this. The thing about it is that part of the communication is not done as well. So it's not, so like you said, using school, for example. Hey, if I'm going to go to school to get my master's, okay, how long is that going to take? 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? Okay, so by this time, we should be done with this. We ride or die on this. This is the priority. Then after that, we should be on to the next. The thing that happens is we never finish what we start. Mm-hmm. Or, hey.
Start and stop.
On top of that, hey, I discovered something else about myself.
Mm-hmm.
So in addition to me going to school now, hey, I figured I'm great at this. I want to do this in addition too. The add-ons become, hey, we didn't talk about this. And that's the part of life that we don't talk about as married people or just being in a relationship, period.
Right.
We don't talk about those things that come up, and now it completely changes everything. And like I said, with you deal with women that are in self-discovery mode. Mm-hmm. So the self-discovery part is nothing that we talk about in a marriage because really you're discovering something about yourself. So we never have this conversation. But because you're discovering something about yourself, it changes everything. But when is the conversation to say, hey, I'm discovering these things about myself. Mm-hmm. I think this is what I need. But I don't want to be selfish with it because it's us. How do we get to this? How can I get to this and not just make it all about me?
Correct.
But that's the part that's never talked about. So when we talk about communication, we have to think about the things that are like, everyone just thinks communication is, hey, talk about the things that's on your mind at this moment and let's plan out this marriage. I'm going to tell you right now that planning out a marriage is great, but it's not 100%.
Correct.
Because life happens.
Life happens, absolutely. And seasons change.
Right. But what happens is in a lot of marriages, and married people out there, please comment and tell me how you feel about this. But when those changes come, that's when the communication stops. We don't communicate as much about the changes as we do. We hold those changes. So say, for example, we get married. And in our marriage, hey, you're used to, I just want to please my man. I just want to make him happy. So I'm going to get up in the morning. I'm going to make him a breakfast every single morning. Your man doesn't ask you for it, but you start to do it. He appreciates it, and then he gets used to it. But then also you get used to it. And then it just becomes a part of your everyday routine.
Okay.
In addition to anything else that you may want to take on. Then you start to feel like, I'm tired of doing this. Why am I doing this? I hate doing this. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. But you've done it for so long that's why you start to hate it. And that's why you do it.
Absolutely.
But there's no communication at all throughout this timeline to say, hey, I don't really like doing this. Or, hey, are you good with me not cooking for you every single day? We don't have those conversations.
Absolutely.
So that's the part that I think that happens in that communication part of the marriage. We talk about how communication is key, but we also have to realize when we stop communicating.
Absolutely. And I think, and I encourage those that are in relationships, want to be in relationship, married, seasons change. So I get you may have been married for 25 years and you think you know this person. There still has to be a check-in point.
Yeah.
And so I desire to please you, but I need to ask you what pleases you.
Right.
Because cooking breakfast, that's just what I saw grandmama and them do. Right. That may not even be, and that goes back to you training me how to be Mrs. Fox. Because if breakfast ain't it for you, then I need to know what's it for you.
Yeah.
And then you need to know what's it for me. But if we go to the good old love languages, right? My love language 10 years ago may not be the same love language in 2024.
Right.
And so, one, I have to be honest with me and understand what my love language is.
Right. Absolutely.
And then communicate it to you what my love language is and how to love me.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
And so what I always say is, if you don't love somebody in their love language, then they don't feel loved.
Yeah, I agree.
If my love language is words of affirmations and I want you to compliment me and I want you to pour into me and I want you to, affirm me, and you just buy gifts all the time, the gifts are great. But there's a need that I have that's not getting met, so I may feel unloved. And vice versa.
Yeah.
And so that's just a small piece, but we just need to check in, because I think prior to my mother passing, physical touch was it was on the lower end of my love languages. After, I would be like, I just need a hug. Can I get a hug?
Right.
You know what I mean? But I had to understand that that's what I need.
You're very touchy-feely.
That's what I needed. And I had to be okay, because prior to, that's clingy.
Yeah.
Right? But you my husband. And so I had to give myself permission to be like, that's not clingy. That's what you need. Go get a hug. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so, again, it's about, and that's the self-discovery. It's about understanding, okay, I need this, but does this look weak? Why do I think that? Where did I get that from? Girl, go get what you need, communicate what you need,
right,
and then keep it moving. But like you said, that's the part that we miss, and we fussing, cussing, and arguing. Mm-hmm. Because I'm over here not feeling loved, and you over there not feeling loved, and I'm waiting for Heathcliff to show up, you waiting for Claire to show up, or whoever this fictitious wife is or fictitious husband, and we're not communicating, teaching each other how to be in relationship with each other.
So I think so I would say this is the next bullet point in regards to the misconceptions of marriage.
Okay.
This bullet point that I'm about to say kind of goes hand in hand with all of this. And what I'm saying is a lot of people have a misconception that when you get married, it's no longer about you, it's about us, which that part is true. But they think that because we're saying that, that means that you die. Because we've heard this, oh, you die.
That is so.
Right. That's not true. You're going to still grow. You're still a person.
Right.
You're still going to grow. You still have wants, needs, desires, ambitions, everything. Same thing with me. The thing about it is we have to be able to express these things. So like you said, your love languages change. But in my opinion, if this is what I married and everything else is cut off and dead at this point, then I'm like, that doesn't change. Your love languages stay your love languages.
Right.
No, you grow. You're still a person.
And you experience life.
You experience life. So everything changes. So we can't have the misconception that you're going to be the same person that you were 20 years ago.
Correct.
Now, some people can stay in that position, but a lot of people don't. I'm just saying some. I'm not saying. I'm just saying that there's always an exception to the rule.
Oh, okay.
But what I'm
I
saying
don't think
is
they're being honest, but okay.
right. But so for example, if you have a man, if me and you have been married and you feel like, yo, I have done nothing with myself for the last 10 years, you might look at me and say, yeah, he's the same person that he was 10 years ago, right? Totally untrue, but you're looking at, hey, what has he done? How has he changed? Nope, this is the same way. Nope, he hasn't asked me for anything. Nope, he hasn't expressed this. So that's what I'm saying. Some people will have the assumption that some people just don't change. I totally disagree with that as well. I do think that everybody grows and their needs definitely change. Who you married in the beginning is not who you're married to now. I don't care if it's 10 years, 1 year, 6 months. Some people change the day they say I do.
Absolutely.
Because of expectation. So that's the misconception that I think that we need to erase. You are still an individual, even when you're married.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If we can understand that, I think that that helps along with communication, because if you're an individual, just like when we were dating, you wasn't scared to tell me about yourself then. Don't stop now.
Correct.
Don't stop being you just because we now are team whatever the last name is.
Right.
Nah, you still who you are. And it helps me to see that, yo, you're growing. Because if I'm looking at you like, yo, everything was supposed to stop, then I'm looking at you crazy when you say you got these dreams of doing this. When you want to do this, why do you want to change now? For 10 years, we've been good. Now you want to do something different? But you human, you supposed to.
Right.
Everybody wants change.
Right.
I don't want to die just doing the same thing I've been doing for the last 20 years. I want to have some different experiences. So it was great that you said, like, yo, the love language has changed, because some people think that, hey, I bring her flowers all the time. Well, that's going to get old quick. Some women may love it, but like you said, some women may say, I love the flowers, then now I just need a hug.
Right. Right.
Hey, I love the hugs. Now I just need somebody to tell me that everything going to be all right. Pour into me.
Right.
So everything does change. So
It does.
Yeah, the misconception that you stop growing or becoming a person when you're married, that's the biggest one I think that we need to eradicate.
I think the other misconception, well, let me give a facts and then give you the misconception. So I learned, being married, listening and talking to other married couples, that when it comes to intimacy and connection, right? And make sure I'm saying this right.
Go ahead.
Men need to be intimate to feel connected, and women need to be connected to be intimate.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
And so the misconception is that you don't have to work at intimacy. This is my person. They get me. This is my man, my man, my man. This is my ride or die. But you don't have to work at the intimacy. You don't have to work at the connection.
Okay.
And you could be my best friend, but we still have to work on the connection.
Yeah.
And I think when the connection is lost, then here comes the other things in the marriage.
Gotcha.
Right? So other signs and symptoms. Oh, well, you're not cleaning the house, or you're not doing your part in this and you're not doing, and what's happening is the connection is gone.
What do you think causes the connection to be gone?
I think life gets busy and you become two ships passing in the night. You're talking at each other. We're using dry erase boards to communicate. It's not a real conversation. We are tied up in the mundane of life. So if you have children, the children's activities, schoolings, routine becomes a priority. If you have parents, if you have other family members that you have to take care of, work is huge. Church is huge. That takes a distraction away from the house. Any clubs, fraternities, I think just the busyness of life gets in the way of the connection.
Gotcha.
And the frequency becomes off. So I'm tuned in here and you're tuned in there, and now our frequency is off. And now you want to have sex, but I'm not feeling connected.
Right.
And you in order to get connected, I need to be connected, right? And so then that's the issue. You know what I mean? But I think a lot of the underlying is the connection. If we connected, we can get it through anything. When we're disconnected, the frequency is off. We're not even tuned into each other. And so I think that people feel like, oh, I found my person. This is my BFF. He gets me. He understands my language. He supports my goals, my dreams. She loves my, whatever. But we think we don't have to work at intimacy. We don't have to work at connecting. Not true. I think people that have been 25 years in the game, 30 years in the game, 40 years in the game still have to work on connection and still have to be intentional about, let me check on my boo. I think we take that for granted because just the busyness of life. Gotcha. Agree?
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
All right. Oh, I got an agreement. Woo.
Yeah.
Hey. I'm connected.
But the connection and the busyness of life is a whole different episode.
It is.
So I would say
part 2 coming.
In summation, I would say I agree.
Yeah. But I also think, and I tell anyone, that your marriage has to be the most important relationship, secondary to God, of course.
So I totally agree. Mm-hmm. Now, this is the part where...
I know.
What? Go ahead, say it.
Go ahead.
No, you say it since you know. Go ahead.
You're going to say women don't, what we don't do.
What don't y'all do?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm team women right now. I don't know. What don't we do, sir?
So, again, this goes back to shadow. This goes back to all of those different things where there's a big disconnect between the man and the woman as it relates to this.
Okay.
So, again, whether you're starting a business, whether you're going back to school, whether you're changing your profession, whether you're discovering about yourself, right? Again, I think that when those things happen, it's a me thing. I'm the person that's discovering this about myself. I'm the person that is wanting to go do this new venture, whatever it may be, right? But are we honest, man or woman? Are we honest that when these things do come about, are we still putting the marriage first? Does this new thing in my life now take priority because, hey, he or she is here. They're not going nowhere as we think. You know what I'm saying? Hey, they're still here. My marriage is still my marriage, but now I got time to make this thing the priority. Or do I start to look at the other person and now look at it like, well, I'm doing all these things. What are you doing?
So here's the thing. So when I made this statement, because I think you're feeling some kind of way about my ladies that rediscover themselves. But we'll talk about that in a minute. So one, let's just make it basic.
Make it basic.
Sometimes we put the children in front of the marriage. Sometimes the children becomes priority. We don't go on date night. We don't, have fun. We don't have mommy daddy time. We don't have adult time because of the kids. And the kids are a lot of people's excuses why they can't do them.
Facts.
And then what happens is that the kids grow up, and we've seen this. The kids grow up. As soon as they can get out, they get out, and they live a life of their own. And you sitting looking like, who is this person? Now, we haven't been through that part, but you know that kids grow up and they get on.
I know it happens,
They get on,
Yeah.
right? But you've made this person the center of your world. And it's everything about Johnny. It's everything about Kiki. It's everything about these kids that we lose ourselves. Okay. And so when we don't have said kids because they grow up, I'm looking at you like, who is you?
Right.
Like, do I even like you? Right. Because all of these years, we never spent time with us. We didn't grow together. We didn't do any of those things. We made life about the taking care of home, the priority of the bills, all that, and then the kids.
Right.
And so what I'm saying is sometimes, so that's what led me to your marriage has to be the most important relationship to you. Right. You have to feed that relationship and say, F them kids, right?
Yeah.
Even when it comes to your parents, because there's in our community, it's a whole, who come first, the mama or the wife. You know what I mean? Yeah. My wife, right? And again, no disrespect to the mother who birthed you and raised you. No disrespect to the father who birthed and raised you. But this is my person.
Right.
This is who I'm, Yeah. And so I think we have to shift our perspective and make sure we're intentional about this relationship, to your point, that we don't take it for granted and feel like this person is always going to be there.
Right. So, and I totally agree with you. I think that, we start the thing with the kids because, hey, we brought them into this world. This is our responsibility. And they're in a position where, hey, they can't fend for themselves. So we do spend that time. And then, like you said, it gets to a point where they can do for themselves and then they're gone.
Right.
So I agree. Same thing with the parents. Speak to when that disconnect is not the kids nor the parents, but again, it's because of your own changes. So again, and that's why, and I'm not getting on the women, I know you deal with women, so I'm using that as an example because that's what you do.
No, go ahead.
But even with the men, I mean, once again, if you are, if life changes, again, because we don't stop just because we're married. We grow. My needs, my wants, my changes, my ambitions, desires, all of that is going to change. So will yours. So whether it's that or whether it's, hey, like, for example, I want to go to school. I want to do this. I want to do that. What I'm saying is, so what happens when it's not anyone on the outside, but it's one of us?
Absolutely.
So what happens then? Do we really have that talk with ourselves to say, hey, I can have this, but I have to make sure that my marriage does not get affected by it?
Correct.
I'm saying that should happen. I'm asking, do you think that it does happen?
I don't think it happens like it should. I think people's communication is off, period. I think as a community, period, not just married, I think our communication is off. I think either we're very aggressive or we're very passive.
Okay.
And either we're too nice and not trying to say certain things, or we're too aggressive where we're just saying all the wrong things.
I got you.
And so in communication, I think we have to, again, think about timing and the message and the delivery and the tone of the message. Right? And so to your point, I think that we don't have a lot of the conversations about ambitious or am I okay here because I don't want to have to stop. So if I want to be an entrepreneur, but it's taking all of our household money and we've tried this for 5 years, and if I come and check in, you may say, Tiffany, you can't do this anymore. Right. We're affected by it.
And does Tiffany stop?
Tiffany should stop.
Right.
Tiffany should stop.
Right.
If we figure out, one, why it's not working, but if it's, hey, I'm gonna leave, or this is a 911, then I think Tiffany should focus on that 911.
Okay.
What's the issue? Right? Because Tiffany may just be focused in TFI and not understanding and making the connection.
Right.
Right? So then here's where the communication comes. Help Tiffany make the connection on the effects of what she's doing.
Yeah, so
not just point. You doing it ain't working, I'm out. You know what I'm saying? So help me make the connection, and that's where the timing and the tone and delivery, because sure, I could see our bank account is depleting, but I'm saying, hey, you got it right back next Friday, right, bruh? Okay, cool. Let me go ahead and keep, you know what I'm saying?
and in some way that makes sense.
So help make the connection. But if you come with aggression, and you come with wrong timing, and you come with all of this extra stuff, and I don't have the connection, then I'm going to feel like you hating, you attacking, what's the problem? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's where I mean the tone and delivery comes in, because you do have a duty to help people make connections, help your spouse make the connection. But I agree, if this is affecting our marriage, this should be my number one relationship and priority.
So when
and I know that's not popular opinion, but it has to be when you're in covenant, right?
Yo.
So I know that's not popular opinion. However, again, I'm going to say it again. It has to be when you're in covenant, because this is bigger than you.
Yeah, I agree.
This is bigger than you. And so that's a part of marriage. Again, misconception that we don't want to talk about. This is bigger than a contract. Right? You okay?
Sorry. I didn't take my I didn't.
This is bigger than a contract, because a contract says, you do this, I'll do this. You hold up this end of the bargain and I will do this.
Right.
But a covenant says, I am going to be in order no matter what. And that's the part that we don't talk about, we don't understand, and we forget about, that just because you tripping as your wife, I don't get to act out of order.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Oh, man, I had to throw the vice versa in there.
Yes.
I was with you right until you threw the vice versa.
Always vice versa. But this has to be the most important relationship.
Yeah.
And so if anything, person, place, or thing gets in the way, then we got to reevaluate some stuff.
Yeah, I mean, but that's why in the marriage, like you said, I agree with you that, especially going into this for, like we said, this will be our 10th year as being married. There were so many different times where tone, delivery, and timing played a major role in whether or not the message was communicated correctly and if it actually got through to the other person. And that's on both sides. And for the men, I know we're logical. So it's like, if we're saying something and it's true, it shouldn't matter. So for your example, if we see the bank account depleting, this is a 911.
Right.
I shouldn't have to, in my mind anyway.
Right.
I shouldn't have to say, baby, the account is getting kind of low. But so you don't have to do that, but you do have to make sure she's in a position where she's going to hear what you're saying, because if you do just say it whenever you decide to say it, unfortunately, it won't get heard depending on what's going on with her.
Absolutely.
And vice versa.
Absolutely.
So what matters to her, if she wants to express that to me, she has to also work on knowing when I'm the most receptive to hear this information. Mm-hmm. So if she's giving me 10 things to do, the 11th ain't getting heard. Hell, the 7th one, the 6th one ain't getting heard.
The second one is not getting heard.
Right. Let me finish the first one, come to the second one. Don't give me a whole list. I don't operate like that. And that's the other thing too, women, I'm just giving y'all a tip in regard to how men operate. Mm-hmm. We work to not have to do anything. Give me a task, I'll do it. Don't give me multiple tasks. Let me finish one to go to the next one. This is done. What's next? This is done. What's next? If you pile on so much, we're not going to do it. Some of that stuff is going to get left behind. I'm just being honest. Women, you guys are amazing at multitasking. But I've also seen the downside of that. Hey, I've put so much on my plate now. I'm stressed. I'm tired.
Telling people my business.
Every woman goes through this, I'm quite sure. Comment if you don't. And we'll have that one-on-one session. She'll book you for the one-on-one session, and we'll talk if this does not apply to you. But I feel like the difference between men and women is that a woman will put so much on her plate that now you worry, you stress, the household feels it.
Absolutely.
The husband feels it, the kids feel it.
Absolutely.
Whereas a man is like, yo, I'm going to do this one thing, maybe two because, hey, I got to work, so that job does take a precedence. But the other thing that you're asking me to do, all right, that list is going to have to wait because I'm not going to overstress myself about something that can wait. And it doesn't make sense to a woman, but a man is going to not stress themselves and not work. You know what I'm saying? Because, hey, I know what I can handle. And putting so much on my plate, if that's going to stress me, I'm not going to do that to myself.
So you're right, period. Flipping the next page. Just giving context to, because not all women add stuff to their plate. So we'll be fair in that. But the ones who do, the problem is.
Sips his water.
The problem is, for us in our mind, everything is urgent.
Yeah.
So I have to work an 8-hour day and get that stuff done. Mm-hmm. And then I have what I like to call the second job of coming in, homework, figuring out what to eat, laundry, what are we doing around the house. So for us, and there are studies that show, like, women think about the household 90% more than men do. Like, you don't worry about if the bathroom rug is washed and have been changed in a week. You don't even care about the sheets like that, right? But in our mind, we got to have this. It has to, and everything is urgent. So we can't rest in our mind, right? In our perspective, we can't rest because there's 10 things that need to get done. I saw the Facebook or Instagram meme where it says, "Honey, I'm going to bed." Husband goes to bed, and then wife has to do 10 things before she goes to bed. Right. Because in our mind, these things are urgent.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you a question.
Hold on, before you do that.
Go ahead.
So what we're trying to do in rediscovery, right, is this really urgent?
I was about to ask that question.
Is this really urgent? Why do I feel it's urgent? Today I talked to a couple, and I had to go back to, in my head, the kitchen needs to be cleaned and no dishes left in the sink before you go to bed. That was my rule of thumb. That is what I thought every household did. Mm-hmm. And if you didn't.
Talk to them.
And if you didn't, you were nasty.
Right.
Right? So in our house, make sure the dishes are washed. Now, I would wash the dishes, but at the time we had a teenager as well. Kanan was a baby, so he didn't contribute to much dishes. And so my thing was, please make sure the kitchen is clean before you go to bed. And I would toss and turn, and I would be upset, and I would have an attitude, and I really couldn't go to sleep because I knew that daggone kitchen was not clean.
Right.
And I got two able bodies in there that messed up dishes after I cleaned the kitchen, after I said kitchen was closed, right? And so I would get up with an attitude, again, can't sleep, can't rest, fussing, cussing, all that good stuff because the dishes weren't clean. Mm-hmm. Then I realized, okay, maybe I'm communicating incorrectly, right? Because I had two night owls. Me and Kaden would go to bed about 9 o'clock, and Tashara and Keon would be up till 1 or 2 in the morning. Mm-hmm. So maybe, just maybe, it's my time, delivery, tone, and communication. So now I need to give them a time. Hey, I want the kitchen clean before 9 o'clock. Because they would be like, I'm going to do it. I'm not ready for bed yet. You said do it before I go to bed, it would be 2 a.m. And again, I can't sleep because I'm tossing and turning because there's dishes in my sink. And I would tell them if I see a roach or a rat or an ant, me and my baby, we are packing up and we moving.
Yeah.
So you know I'm not lying. However, right? Is this a big deal, Tiffany? Is it enough for you to not get sleep? Now, he was a baby, so of course he wasn't sleeping all the way through the night. And so you got to get back up in a couple hours. Are you serious? So is this a 911? And what I had to do in discovery in my inner work is understand where that came from. Your house ain't nasty if you got dishes in the sink, right? And so I had to tell myself, it's okay. And so I had to let that go, right? And now I don't care. I think you do the dishes more before you go to bed than I say anything anymore.
Yes.
But what had happened was I became unmanageable.
Preach.
My attitude was nasty.
Wow.
It set the tone in the house. All because dishes are in the sink. And I'm stressing because dishes are in the sink. And so what I'm saying is to say, right, is it dishes? It's dishes. But is it not dishes? Is the thing really that important? I know we're taught to clean the house every Saturday or clean the house every Sunday. Who said we had to clean the whole house in one day?
Right.
Freeing myself, self-discovery, I clean the bathrooms on Monday. I do a thorough, kitchen clean maybe on Tuesdays and Fridays. I break it up by days so that I'm not unmanageable, that I'm not stressed out if I don't get the whole house done, in addition to working, in addition to all the other things on top of all the other things that I have to do, right? Sometimes we got to let it go. And so for me, that's the discovery that I'm talking about. Sometimes the rigid rules, or it has to be done this way, that we've talked ourselves into finding a way for peace and freedom.
Right.
So not necessarily who am I, as far as my goals and ambitions change. That's great if we're talking about those, but I'm talking about the small, minute things too. Mm-hmm. The rules that we live by, the playbook that's up here. Why are we playing by that? And why are we expecting everybody else to play by it?
Yeah, exactly.
And when life happens, we come back and we recreate the playbook. So if we have a loss in the family, if we have a child going off to college, right? If we have a child or a parent that's sick, if we have a new job or lost a job, come back together as a team and what's in the playbook. Right. And let's talk about what's in the playbook.
So the beautiful part that you just said in regards to asking yourself, is this really a priority like I'm making it out to be? You said something right before that, too. You said, you do the dishes now before you. It's not told to me, right? So I'm saying that to say, women out there, your man hears what you're saying. He will do those things. The thing that we need to let go of is, I need it done now. Because his time is not your time. You ask him to do something, and he's going to do it. But if you want it done right now, then you're going to have to do it, because this is not his priority. This is not his 911. He is not tossing and turning about whatever said thing you want done. And I know that doesn't sound right. But again, you have to ask yourself, why is it this pressing to me? Why am I this bothered about things? Yeah. Now, if it's something that really needs to be done at that moment, I totally get it. But if it's something that can wait, sometimes, so I would just speak for us, because you gave the example. So you get up in the morning, get the kids off to school, daycare, whatever have you, work your 9 to 5, you come home, dinner, get the baby ready, the teenager, make sure she's straight, and so on and so forth. Like you said, we're night owls. So with that, this is our time to, right, me and Tashara, we're night owls. This is our time to ourselves. Mm-hmm. This is the time that we have to not be bothered, but also focus on the things that we want to do. So I hear you saying do the dishes. Bet, I'll do them. Let me just have this time to myself. I'll get to it. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. Sometimes we just need to get that time to ourselves because we have things that are important to us as well. We're not disregarding you. We're just saying, hey, as soon as I'm done over here,
I got you.
I got you.
Okay.
It's patience. The biggest thing. And I'm not trying to just make that a woman thing. That's a man thing too. Absolutely. Because we have a lot of expectations that we put on y'all as well.
Absolutely.
And because you might have so much on your plate, it will be very selfish of me to think that, hey, because I said I need this done right now, and it really doesn't have any real need at this moment, it will be very selfish to have an expectation that, yo, you need to do it right now, and for me to get angry because you haven't. It happens, but it's selfish. So that's another thing as well. Sometimes we have to understand why we operate the way that we do, and that's really a conversation that no one has as a married couple that I know. We don't talk about, hey, we talk about, I ask you to do these things, but you don't do them when I ask you to do them. We don't say, hey, why do you decide to wait to the last minute to do it?
And I think, again, it's a self-awareness thing.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
it is, how self-aware are you? Do you understand how? Do you even understand why you do those things?
Yes.
And so I have to be able to express why I do those things. And sometimes I know and sometimes I don't know. It can just be, innate and automatic because the people before me did those things. Or one day I set out and said I wasn't going to be anything like my parents. And so now I'm doing the complete opposite. But it takes self-awareness and reflection to figure out why you move, how you move. One of the things, before we close, one of the things we learned last year, year 9, right, was in our study we did with our group, we talked about temperaments. And we looked at the 4 different type of personalities. I can't remember all of them, but I remember the colors. It was red, blue, yellow, and green. And in this study, what we discovered was that, I'm a red, of course, if you didn't know. So the reds need this, and they operate like this, right? And so, for example, I have to operate in order and planning and organization. But what I need is I need people's energy, right? And I need support and I need loyalty. And so being married to me, that's something you need to know, right? Where I thrive and then what I need. You're a blue.
On Crip, cuz. No, I'm just joking. But yes, I'm a blue.
You're a blue. And so you thrive in creativity and you thrive in almost not fluid, gone with the wind type, but you need flexibility. Everything doesn't need to be so rigid. What you need is solitude and you need time to yourself. That's how you replenish. And so you got 2 people. I need people, right? And then he needs to be by himself. And so what happens is, real life, again, transparent moment, I would come with a brilliant idea. Of course, this idea is brilliant. This is the best idea since sliced bread, and I would present it to my husband. And what it would feel like is my husband would poke holes in the idea. And I'm like, man, he don't want me to be great. Like, he tripping. Like, okay, I'll present another idea. He would do the same thing. It was like deflating my balloon.
Yeah, so then I'm hating. That's at one point she said I was hating.
And so
let's keep it a buck.
Let's talk about tone, delivery, all of that, right? In my head now I got a PowerPoint presentation because these are what he's gonna ask. He's going to these are going to be his cons. He's going to worry about the money. Where is this coming from? How are we going to do this? So I had all my bullet points, all my talking points, and it would be feeling like deflated, okay? And so, one, it would make me not want to share any of these brilliant ideas because I know they're brilliant, right? But 2, it would make me feel like we're not on the same team, okay? Year 9, we discovered this temperament study. And we got to do a part 2 to this. And so on part 2, we'll tell them about the study. Yeah. And so it talked about how he's able to, I'm a visionary, and he's able to see the potholes in the vision, right? And this is my paraphrase, and this is how I understood it. And so I need him to help me get to the vision because he can forecast the potholes. Same team. He sees the vision. He believes in the vision, but he's letting me know what to look for right? And what to look out for to get to the vision. Yeah. And this whole time I'm thinking he hating. Right? And so again, understanding why we move, how we move, and what we need will help you understand who's on your team, right? And how they can be best utilized, what's their strong point, what's all of that. Like, we got to understand all of that. But as individuals, we first have to understand that and then come together as a team.
Yeah.
Because my role on the team and your position on the team, we need each other.
Yeah.
But if I feel like and I'm moving like we're not on the same team, then we're never going to achieve. We're never going to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Because we don't know the position. I don't know what you need. You don't know what I need.
And we don't, sometimes it's not even that we don't understand the position. Sometimes we just don't understand the assignment. So,
say it.
Hey, let's win the Super Bowl. But what is your job as a quarterback?
Right.
What is my job as a receiver? What am I supposed to do? What are you supposed to do? And how does that work together so that we can get this goal?
And do I trust you to do it?
And do I trust you to do it? A lot of times we focus on the goal and we don't ask those questions. So just like she said, if she comes with an idea, the idea can sound great. I've just lived long enough and experienced some things where I know that, hey, okay, what about this? What happens if this happens? What happens if that happens? There is questions. You should be able to answer it or have a plan for it. And if you don't, then I'm like, no. But like she said, if you can understand, hey, I didn't think about, instead of look at it from that perspective, I didn't think about that question. Let me go back and figure out an answer to that question. Let me go back and figure an answer to that question. So now the possibilities or scenarios that could make this thing fail are less likely to happen because I've prepared for it.
And I'm open.
And you're open
to hearing your suggestion on how to fill that gap.
Absolutely.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Mr. Fox, thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks for having me again. I feel like I'll see you sometime soon.
We got to do a part 2.
Yes.
I would love to bring our marriage group, at least a couple or two from our marriage group on to flesh out marriage even more.
What I would also love is for anyone out there, because we're talking about marriages, we're talking about relationships, give us some questions. Let us know what's on your mind.
Absolutely.
Tell us what you think about what we've discussed today, so that we can also get to those things. Because if you guys have some pressing issues or situations that you're going through or questions, and this could possibly help you guys, then let us know, and we'll go ahead and tackle those issues and have that discussion.
And just a disclaimer, I want to hear from the single people as well.
Right.
So what are your preconceived notions? What do you have questions on marriage? Again, we are not the expert, but we've just been in this thing for about 10 years. And a lot of our 10 years have been transition, growth, more transition, adjustment, and all that good stuff. Life been lifing for 10 years.
Yeah.
So we're just going to talk about our experiences, and if we can help, we can help. But we are not the blueprint by any means. We are not the end-all, be-all, but we would love to see marriages win because we know that they can, and so we're here to help.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of the Unangry Black Woman Podcast. I hope you enjoyed our discussion. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please consider subscribing, rating, and leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us grow. Remember, the conversation doesn't have to stop here. Follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Tiffany Fox Inc. We would love to hear from you. Have you follow us. Here's some topics that you want to discover. Join us every Wednesday for a new episode at noon. Until then, take care, and remember, healing happens in community.